Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints.com. This edition of Rising, and got a little bit more action in the governor's race this past week, Ted, including new spots from both Pritzker and Rauner, their joint appearance before the Sun-Times editorial board. And what came out of that Sun-Times editorial board appearance was Bruce Rauner talking like Donald Trump on border security or illegal immigration, sort of a stunning reversal from the guy who signed the sanctuary state legislation a year ago. And J.B. Pritzker refusing to define the middle class, what that income range looks like as it pertains to the possibility of graduated state income tax. Listen to J.B. Pritzker being pressed on what exactly is middle class, define it in dollars and cents after his appearance at the editorial board to the rest of the Chicago press gaggle.
Why can't you answer the question about middle class income? What do you believe middle class income is?
Well, again, I've told you that it's important that we negotiate this with
No. I'm not asking about the graduate.
But
what does someone make?
It doesn't matter, because what does matter is that we're going to have to negotiate this with the legislature, and it's going to have to go through a referendum of the people.
The governor said 50 to 200,000 would be middle class for him.
What does someone make who's middle class?
We talked a little bit about that.
No, you didn't answer it. Why is that difficult?
Why is that difficult, Ted? Rauner's answer was 50 to 200,000, which is sort of the same way as saying everybody is a member of the middle class. So that's not much of an answer either, but it's consistent with what I think both men represent. One represents nothing, Pritzker. He wants to be as round as his torso. He wants to say nothing, take no positions, and just not be the guy that wants to be everything to everybody, and that's Rauner. So middle class, 50 to 200,000, or undefined. We're going to negotiate what the middle class is. I mean, this is just an alternate dimension.
It is crazy, and it's obvious why Pritzker's doing it, and he's been advised by former Governor Jim Edgar to be as non-transparent as possible. Why have a plan, especially for Illinois? Illinois doesn't need a plan, right? It just go in and we'll figure it out once we get there.
Yeah.
Pritzker should be laying down his plan, as should Rauner, as to how they're going to fix the state. But it's obvious that Pritzker does not want to be tied down to a crazy plan. He keeps saying he wants to raise, I don't know, is it $8 billion, $10 billion, $12 billion more that he says the state needs? If you were actually to put a tax rates on what that would mean to raise 10, 12 billion more, would show that he's got either no plan or a crazy plan, and that everybody would leave. Right, so we've talked about this outmigration. If he tries to raise taxes to 10%, 11% on the rich, right, quote rich, it won't work.
Well, and
which means we'll have to tax the middle class, which he doesn't want to say.
Right, of course, right. I mean, that's where the money is, and that's where the lack of mobility is. Right, people that are tethered to a home they can't sell. Unlike Scottie Pippen, who's willing to take a $750,000 loss just to get rid of this property in Highland Park because he's never coming back to Illinois. But they're tethered to their homes or their jobs or family or kids in school or whatever it may be. You have to. That's where all the people are. That's where all the people are. Is the median household income in the state is $54,000. So that's where the people are. That's what median means. And so it's rather remarkable, the back and forth between the two that sort of kind of goes nowhere. And the other thing, too, that, because this is popular, Class MB politics is still popular, I suppose. But you say, look at the state income taxes in California. It's graduated, and it's very high for the very wealthy. Yeah, and they also have a 1% hard cap on property taxes, right? So, the other game they play is they want you to look at one tax in a vacuum and not how it actually works, which is adding up all the taxes you pay for a total tax burden.
Yeah, because the only thing that's decent in Illinois right now is the flat tax, right? Everything else is super high.
And that just of course,
it just went up.
You just in case people have forgotten, just jacked by a third, the largest structural increase in Illinois history a year ago.
Yeah,
and now we're talking about the next phase of tax increases.
Yeah, what happened? We just had a $5 billion tax hike. Now we want the next one, which is amazing. But they ignore the fact that we pay the highest property taxes in the nation, 3 times more than Indiana, for example. They ignore the fact that we got this massive sales tax in Chicago, right? You pay over 10%. And they like to talk about the income tax in Illinois as being relatively low. But what's fascinating is we did the calculations. If you took $70,000 and compared what does a person in Minnesota or Wisconsin or some of the other nearby states on their progressive tax schemes, they pay more on $70,000 than Illinois does. So if you're just to adopt the Minnesota tax scheme with its exemptions and deductions, an Illinois would be paying more. So it's not like the middle incomers in those other states are paying less; they're paying more. So it's all a lie.
And where this goes. It'll be interesting to see if Pritzker and Democrats, assuming Pritzker's elected, assuming Democrats still control both the House and the Senate, if they really want to move in this graduated income tax direction, or if they just want to use this as sort of a cudgel against Republicans who are going to, watch this state continue to spiral to economic oblivion and probably not be in a position to do much about it except point it out.
Yeah, it's going to be pointed out, and then we're going to point out how people leave. And we've covered that a lot, right? It's people are leaving from whether they're poor, and in Cook County, and we lost 180,000 blacks from 2000 to 2010, or whether it's the North Shore people who are saying I can't afford these taxes anymore, and my property values are sinking. Let me cut bait.
It's just it's staggering to me. 53% of people, according to the Paul Simon Institute poll, want to leave Illinois. And yet, while they're here, they're going to vote for the same thing. Somebody square that circle for me.